All right, now we are going to work on login part. We have already done register, right? So now we are going to work on login. So generally for login, you'd like to have it post, and we can keep its name point as login. Uh, so in our case, in user entity, we don't have username, so we can allow user to pass email and password in a response body, and build that this response body to verify whether our this user exists, and if user exists, then do we have we can compare with the password as well. So let's do one thing. Let's first take it from the body, and here in body I can create login DTO, and maybe I will be creating this DTO type. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create one folder here, DTO, and here in this folder I'm gonna create one file, login.dto.ts. Now what I'm gonna do, so what I can do is I can write export class a login DTO, and now I can have email as a string and then password as string. So we'll also have to do validation, right? So uh, we can put is email from class validator, so we can have validation for this. Is not empty, or for is email, if we pass empty, then is email will return something like false, so we don't need is not empty. So what we can do is not empty here, and it will be a string, it's string, and do we have min length, max length, something like that. So we can have min length as, okay, 8 character. If it fails, password should be of at least, should contain at least 8 character. Okay, list 8 characters, and okay, so how we pass this, probably we need to put it in message. All right, I'm gonna copy this in max length as well. So we have max length, and here I'm gonna put 16 character, or let's do 20, and we can copy this message and put it here, and it should be 20. Password must contain at least, so instead of should we can say must contain at least 8 character, must contain must be less than 20 characters. All right, now we have this validation message. So whenever if we uh, fail to provide the details as expected here, it will throw some error, and our exception handler, our filter, will catch it and throw error in the same way. Okay, now we can import this login DTO here. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to call one method in auth service login, although there's no login exists here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create one login method here in service. I'm gonna write async login, and here it was login DTO and login DTO. Now we'll decide on what it will be its output response, I mean return type. Let's first define the logic here. So we need to validate user, right? So first we'll have to find whether the user exists by this email. So let's pass login DTO dot email, Okay, all right, and const and user. Okay, if it will exist, so it will return there's an user. But if it doesn't exist, we can throw some error, throw new bad request error, and say user does not exist for the given email. All right, now since this user exists, we can go and compare the password. So what we are going to do, let's create one method validate. So let's say we want to validate, let's say async validate user, and then what we can do here, we can verify the password. Let's say, so we need password, it could be in a string, and so what we are going to do, we are going to, okay, so in this case I will pass email as a string. So I want to keep it generic method so that I can use it anywhere. And then what I can do, I can again get user here. So why I'm writing this again here, I will let you know why I'm doing this. So ultimately I'm going to remove this thing, or I'm going to keep it in actually here only. Let's do it here. All right. Okay, now we can call this method this dot validate user, and we can pass login.dto.email and login.dto.password. So why I have created separate method, I will let you know. The reason behind that is once we are going to integrate passport, we'll call this method from the strategy directly instead of doing all the logic here. So I'll explain everything in detail in some time. Meanwhile, just try to understand in login. First we are trying to validate user. In validate user, what we'll do, we'll first find out like whether the user exists, then we need to validate so the password. So in password, let's say if user exists, then we'll have to check the password. So let's do one thing in common module where we created one util method, crypto.util has password. We are going to create one method for compare password. Now we can pass two password. One is the normal password and another is hashed password. Now what we can do, we can compare it. So we'll be using return bcrypt compare, and first thing is string as you see, and second one is encrypted one. So this one will be password and the second is hash password. Okay, so we are going to use this method to verify whether the password is equal or it is something else. So here what is going to happen is I'm going to call compare password, and I'll pass user this password which we are getting from body, as we passed login dto password here in this method, and this is the same parameter. So we are passing it as first parameter, which is the password from request, and the one which we are getting as hashed password from database will be inside the user. So we'll pass it here hashed password, so its name is password only. Okay, now we'll return const is password correct. Okay, so what it will return, it will return a boolean, so we'll have to await it since it is a promise. Now if this is true, then we can say okay, let's say Okay, do one thing. If this is true, is password correct is true, let's return user. Otherwise, return null. So this is similar to what like we can return true and false, but right now what I am doing this is like when I will be using this in passport strategy, I can get this user and set it in the request. So right now this validate user will work, and if I return something from here is like message l- login successful. Okay, now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna try it out. So before I test it, let me just run this server first. Also, I'm seeing some error here, so I would like to fix this first. Okay. Also, I'm gonna return it from here as well. I'm just getting some error. Service has no exported member. Okay, so there's no exported member. Alright, I forgot to save this file. Now it should work. Let me just go and try to log in. In auth, I'm going to add one new endpoint, login, and in login, I'm going to rename it login, and I will use this URL. Will change this to post. I'm just going to save it, and now in raw JSON, I'm going to pass email. Okay, let me pick some user. I don't know if I remember the password, but probably let's see this one, member 6. I tried using 1 to 8 as password for most of them, so it should work. Let me try with the same password. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and let me try it. Okay, so it's right now saying this is not valid URL. Actually, I'll have to add API here. Now let's try this again. Alright, so the login is successful. If I try to put something here and see what it gives, again it is saying successful. So okay, something is wrong here, even though we forgot to update the status code. So we'll do it. Let's fix the problems first. So let's go back in auth controller. Here in register, in login, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use uh, http status, and this would be uh, okay. And in login, what is happening is I need to await this line, then it will work properly. This thing is happening right now. So in validate user, if you notice, if password is correct, we are returning user, otherwise null. So here what will happen, it will always return login successful. So let's do one thing. In const user, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep it in user, and then if there's an user, I'm going to return login successful, and then else what I can do, I can throw new unauthorized exception. Let's try this out now and see if this works. So if I try to log in with correct user, I can see login successful. If I try to remove one um, value, then this is getting error from class validator, like it returned from the DT only. And if I'm just trying to put valid password and wrong password, that in that case I will get unauthorized error, right? So that was it from this video. In next video we will set up how we can debug code in VS Code editor, and then how we can add breakpoints here.